These are the best and worst fantasy landing spots for wide receivers in 2026. Now, beware. Beware. We are looking for the best environment for a wide receiver one to thrive. That means targets, consistency, and volume are key, and that might not necessarily be on the best team. So some of these landing spots might surprise you. We'll start off with the best landing spots. At the top of the list, no surprise here, it is New England. You cannot ask for a better landing spot than being the wide receiver one for Drake May. Stefon Diggs was the wide receiver one this season, and it was a very fine season despite him being 32 and coming off of a massive injury. But it is far better to go ahead and invest in your wide receiver one of the future rather than just completely waiting on Stefon Diggs to fall off. And while Diggs did operate as the wide receiver one, his production was not anywhere close to where we had seen from him like 2 years ago. The offense worked well because Drake May was incredibly efficient, but it would go to a whole new level if they had a true wide receiver one who at this point of their career was able to handle 140 plus targets. May was 4th in passing yards, he was 3rd in passing touchdowns, 5th in completions, and yet only 12th in attempts. All that adds up to there being a higher ceiling if they add a very young alpha. Even with Stefon Diggs, a new wide receiver would absolutely thrive here. And any player, whether it is added via the draft or via a trade, any player added to be the long-term wide receiver one for Drake May would be perfection here. This is by far the best landing spot. Next on this list is Tennessee. I know that might be a little surprising because Tennessee was a disaster last year, but Cam Ward did show promise, and we've got a new regime in town. And while I do not trust Brian Daboll as a head coach, I do trust him to develop quarterbacks. So I think there's positive here coming in the future. Tennessee must add a wide receiver one. You guys know how partial I am to Tim Radike, and Alec Ayamanar is very talented, but I do not think that either one of them is a true wide receiver one. Tennessee may be in the middle of what feels like a never-ending rebuild, but it has the perfect environment to produce a high-volume wide receiver one. Robert Saleh will improve the Titans' defense, but that's going to take some time. We will likely continue to see Cam Ward pushing a lot of volume similar to he did last season. An alpha in this offense would absolutely be the target hog, and we know that Brian Daboll has zero problem sending 150 targets easily one receiver's way. Calvin Ridley might not feel super old, but unfortunately he is, and he's past his prime. Even if he remains on the Titans, they would likely want to push forward with a younger receiving core. I can easily see him being phased out of this offense for another true wide receiver one. San Francisco is an excellent landing spot, but it's a little bit further down on the list of ideal locations because it does oddly hinge on Juwan Jennings. Jennings is not a true wide receiver one, but his presence would affect target share. San Francisco is a very interesting landing spot because they don't have to add a new true wide receiver one, but I do think it would be in their best interest to at least try to do it. Jennings is a good wide receiver too, and obviously he is a free agent. Ricky Pearsall has shown wide receiver one capabilities, but zero consistency. Brandon Ayuk is on his way out. George Kittle suffered that massive injury, and unfortunately at his age, it could legitimately put his entire 2026 season at jeopardy, at the very least, in terms of being full capacity, the normal George Kittle that we are used to seeing. Christian McCaffrey is the core of this offense, but the system can produce a wide receiver one, and Brock Purdy is great at providing consistent volume. 2025 was obviously not ideal because of injuries, but the 49ers made it work. And the best way to turn things around offensively is to get a true wide receiver one who can be a dependable target leader. Now, moving on to the worst landing spots. I'm sorry, guys. I know this might ruffle some feathers, but Buffalo is one of the worst landing spots. This is not a knock on Josh Allen. This is not an insult to him. We know that Josh Allen can provide top 5 numbers to a wide receiver. That is not an issue. Stefon Diggs had excellent seasons with Josh Allen, but it's Joe Brady that I am concerned about. Joe Brady's offensive system simply might not actually support a true wide receiver one. In 2023, the Bills fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey and handed things over to Joe Brady about halfway through the season. Prior to that, Stefon Diggs was thriving. I'm talking like never less than 13 fantasy points in a game that season level of thriving. Then we saw a very clear change in offensive philosophy when they made the transition over to Joe Brady. You saw a dramatic drop in production, not only for Stefon Diggs, but Gabe Davis as well. So while we have seen Josh Allen support a high-end receiver, we have never seen it from him with Joe Brady calling the shots. Again, I don't have any criticisms of Josh Allen from a fantasy perspective. I don't simply trust that they can make a true wide receiver one here. Khalil Shakir is in contract. They push really good volume to the tight ends. Essentially, they'd be looking to replace Keon Coleman, right? So there is a certain level that might not be able to be eclipsed in this offense for a wide receiver. Fine wide receiver 2 environment. True wide receiver 1? Probably not. Whoever they add will help their offense get to another level if they add the right player, but it might just be fantasy fool's gold for us. This one is pretty simple. The Raiders need a new wide receiver 1, and I do feel positive about the turnaround for their offense with Clint Kubiak and the likely addition of Fernando Mendoza. I am on record about that, but the new wide receiver 1 will have a Brock Bowers problem. The best landing spots for receivers are the best because they don't have any incumbent players that command 150 targets. And yes, last year was a down year, but that was a combination of injury, quarterback, and poor coaching. A talent like Brock Bowers cannot be shelved. And even if he's not a 150 target kind of guy, if it comes down to even 120, still, he is a big target guy. The second issue is that the Raiders have a top talented running back, and now they've got a coach with an extremely run-heavy scheme last year, and Ash Genty is a perfect receiving back. I do not hate this landing spot. I like it a lot, but just be wary of thinking that their new wide receiver 1 will get the Jackson Smith and Jigba treatment level of targets. So naturally, this has to come down below teams that have higher target share opportunities. And finally on this list, it is Cleveland. It definitely hands down the worst landing spot for a wide receiver, unfortunately. Now, unlike teams like Buffalo and Vegas, where what makes them a bad landing spot is that they have target share issues, the Browns don't have a target share issue, or they won't have a target share issue for whoever comes in. So the good in this landing spot is that whoever does land here is definitely going to be the Browns wide receiver 1. We have only seen success from Jerry Jeudy with Jameis Winston at quarterback. And considering that Jameis Winston made Wan'Dale Robinson look like Malik Neighbors last year, I think Jerry Jeudy's success, we can say that was a product of Jameis, right? Cedric Tillman showed that the little blip of success we saw was unfortunately just a little blip. The new wide receiver 1 will have to contend with Harold Fannin Jr., but ultimately he's not going to have competition from the receiving corps, so that's a good thing. But unfortunately, competition is not the issue here that will keep a wide receiver from thriving. It is the organization and lack of consistency at quarterback. Now, I do think that Todd Monken is a strong offensive coordinator and now head coach. I don't mind his offensive system, but ultimately this team has a quarterback issue, and unless they solve that, this is a terrible landing spot. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can find me across all social media platforms at It's Tera Time, so make sure that you are locked in, tuned in, subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you want to see which wide receivers that I would like to see in these specific landing spots, go check out my wide receiver free agents video for analysis on the top wide receivers available on the market. Other than that, make sure you stick around. We've got so much more fun things coming this offseason. Thank you so much.